Hi guys, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you find this content informative, please subscribe to the channel for more updates. 2 headlines 1 week, and at first glance they looked completely unrelated. The WNBA announced that it's expanding to a 50-game regular season beginning in 2027, the longest schedule in league history. Just hours later, Nike finally revealed CaitlinClark's first signature basketball shoe, ending more than 3 years of anticipation since she signed her historic endorsement deal. Most fans celebrated both announcements separately. One was about the future of the league, the other was about the biggest star in women's basketball. But what if that's exactly what everyone is missing? Because when you zoom out, these aren't just 2 exciting headlines, they're 2 pieces of the same puzzle. A puzzle that reveals just how dramatically women's basketball has changed in just a few short years. Think about it, professional sports leagues don't suddenly add 6 more games without a compelling business reason. Global brands like Nike don't spend years developing a signature shoe unless they believe an athlete can become a long-term cultural icon. These decisions involve millions of dollars, years of planning, and countless projections. They aren't made overnight. So why did both announcements arrive almost at the exact same moment? Is it simply an incredible coincidence? Or does it signal that the WNBA has entered an entirely new era, one driven by record-breaking television ratings, sold-out arenas, massive sponsorship deals, and a generation of players reshaping the sport forever? And where does CaitlinClark fit into all of this? Is she the driving force behind this unprecedented growth, or is she benefiting from a league that was already on the rise? The answer is far more complicated and far more fascinating than the debates you've seen online. By the end of this video, you'll understand why these 2 headlines could become the defining moment people look back on when they talk about the transformation of women's basketball. And once you connect all the dots, you'll see why the biggest story isn't the expanded season or the new sneaker. It's what both of them reveal about the future of the WNBA. The WNBA didn't just make a scheduling change, it made a statement. Beginning in 2027, the league will expand its regular season from 44 games to 50 games, the longest schedule in its history. That might sound like a simple numbers update, but in professional sports, decisions like this are never made on a whim. Every extra game means more travel, higher operating costs, and greater physical demands on players. So the obvious question is, why take that risk now? The answer comes down to one thing: confidence. The WNBA believes the demand for women's basketball isn't slowing down. Over the past few seasons, the league has seen record-breaking television ratings, packed arenas, stronger sponsorships, and growing interest from broadcasters eager for more live games. That's exactly the kind of momentum leagues look for before committing to a major expansion. But the changes don't stop there. The league is also growing beyond its traditional footprint, adding new franchises and preparing for a future with a much larger national and international audience. More teams mean more rivalries, more games mean more marquee matchups, and more nationally televised broadcasts mean more opportunities for players to become household names. Still, this bold move comes with big questions. Can players stay healthy over a longer season? Will fans continue showing up in record numbers? And can the league maintain the incredible momentum it's built over the past few years? Those answers won't arrive overnight, but one thing is already clear. The WNBA isn't planning for where the sport is today, it's planning for where it believes the sport will be 5 or even 10 years from now. And that's what makes the timing so interesting. Because almost as soon as the league revealed its biggest expansion ever, another announcement grabbed headlines, one centered around the player many believe has become the face of this new era, and that story may be even more revealing. Just hours after the WNBA unveiled its historic 50-game expansion, another announcement sent basketball fans into a frenzy. After more than 3 years of waiting, Nike officially introduced CaitlinClark's first signature basketball shoe, the Caitlin one. For many fans, it wasn't just another sneaker release. It felt like the moment one of the biggest stars in women's basketball finally received the recognition many believed she'd earned long ago. The anticipation had been building ever since Clark signed her landmark 8-year endorsement deal with Nike before entering the WNBA. Since then, she'd done almost everything imaginable on the court. She captured Rookie of the Year honors, broke records, became one of the league's most talked-about players, and helped attract millions of new fans to women's basketball. Yet through all of that success, one question never seemed to disappear: where was her signature shoe? Nike stayed quiet, and the mystery only fueled more speculation. Some fans wondered if the company was waiting for the perfect moment. Others believed Nike wanted to make sure the launch matched Clark's rapidly growing influence. While the exact reasons remain known only to Nike, the final rollout suggests the company wasn't interested in rushing the process. When the Caitlin one was finally revealed, it arrived with far more than a single sneaker. Nike paired the launch with an entire apparel collection and a carefully planned marketing campaign filled with subtle teasers that had fans decoding clues for days. By the time the official announcement dropped, excitement had already reached a fever pitch across social media and the basketball world. But this wasn't simply about selling shoes. A signature sneaker represents something much bigger. It's a company's long-term investment in an athlete's future, a declaration that it believes this player can influence the game for years to come. And as impressive as the launch was, the real question wasn't whether fans loved the design, it was why Nike chose this exact moment to make its move. At first glance, the WNBA's expanded season and CaitlinClark's signature shoe look like two completely separate stories. But when you line up the timing, a much bigger strategy begins to emerge. Major sports leagues and global brands don't invest millions of dollars based on emotion, they invest based on data. And right now, nearly every indicator is pointing in the same direction. Women's basketball is becoming a major business. Think about the sequence of events. The WNBA announced its longest season ever, signaling confidence in future ticket sales, television ratings, and sponsorship revenue. Then almost immediately, Nike unveiled one of its most anticipated basketball products in years. Whether this timing was coordinated or simply happened to align, the message was impossible to ignore. Both the league and one of the world's biggest sports brands are betting that the momentum behind women's basketball is only getting stronger. Nike's strategy also appears to go far beyond selling a single shoe. The company didn't just release the Caitlin one, it introduced an entire collection of apparel, built months of anticipation through subtle social media teasers, and turned the launch into a cultural event. That's the kind of rollout usually reserved for athletes expected to remain at the center of the sport for years, not just one successful season. At the same time, the WNBA is expanding its media partnerships, adding new franchises and attracting larger audiences than ever before. Those aren't short-term decisions. They're long-term investments based on years of rising engagement, attendance, and commercial interest. The bigger picture is clear. Nike isn't simply betting on CaitlinClark. The WNBA isn't simply betting on one player. They're both investing in the same idea that women's basketball is entering a new era of mainstream popularity where stars become global brands and the league becomes a year-round business. And that raises the biggest debate of all. Is CaitlinClark the reason this transformation is happening, or is she simply the biggest face of a movement that was already gaining unstoppable momentum? This is the question that has divided basketball fans for months. Has CaitlinClark transformed the WNBA almost single-handedly, or is she simply benefiting from a league that was already on the rise? Depending on who you ask, you'll get two completely different answers. But the truth is much more balanced than either side often admits. There's no denying Clark's impact. Since entering the league, she's helped draw record television audiences, sold out arenas across the country, and brought millions of first-time viewers to WNBA broadcasts. Even road games featuring the Indiana Fever have become major events, with teams moving matchups to larger arenas just to accommodate the surge in ticket demand. Few rookies or even veteran superstars in any sport have generated that kind of immediate attention. At the same time, it would be unfair to say the WNBA's growth belongs to one player alone. Stars like Aja Wilson, Sabrina Ionescu, Breena Stewart, and many others spent years helping elevate the league before Clark arrived. Their performances, championships, and growing fan bases laid much of the foundation that today's explosion in popularity is built upon. The league's new media deals, expansion plans, and increased investment are the result of years of steady progress, not a single season. The reality is that both ideas can be true. The WNBA was already climbing, but CaitlinClark dramatically accelerated that momentum. She introduced the league to millions of casual sports fans who had never watched a WNBA game before, while the league itself was finally in a position to capitalize on that unprecedented attention. In many ways, it was the perfect timing between an emerging superstar and a league ready for its biggest stage. And that's exactly why this moment feels so significant. It's no longer just about one player or one season, it's about an entire sport reaching a level of visibility and commercial success that once seemed out of reach. The only question now is whether this momentum can grow into something even bigger. For Nike, the launch of the Caitlin one is about far more than selling another basketball shoe. It's a long-term investment in what the company believes could become one of the most influential athletes of her generation. Signature sneakers aren't handed out simply because a player is popular for a season. they're reserved for athletes who have the potential to shape the sport, inspire future players, and remain culturally relevant for years. By giving CaitlinClark her own signature line, Nike is making a bold statement about where it sees the future of basketball. But the real test begins when the shoe officially reaches consumers. Strong launch day sales, rapid sellouts, and sustained demand over the following months will reveal whether Clark's popularity can translate into long-term commercial success. If the Caitlin 1 performs the way many analysts expect, it could encourage Nike to invest even more heavily in women's basketball, opening the door for additional signature shoes, larger marketing campaigns, and bigger endorsement deals for the league's next generation of stars. The impact wouldn't stop with Nike. Rival brands like Adidas, Under Armour, New Balance, and Puma will be watching closely. In the sportswear industry, success rarely goes unnoticed. If one company proves that women's basketball can generate blockbuster sales, competitors often follow with aggressive investments of their own. That means more sponsorship opportunities, better endorsement contracts, and greater visibility for athletes across the entire league, not just its biggest names. Perhaps the most exciting part is what this could mean for young fans. Today's children aren't just watching CaitlinClark play, they're growing up wearing her shoes, following her journey, and dreaming of reaching the same stage. That's how iconic brands are built. It's the same formula that helped transform legends like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant into global symbols that extended far beyond the game itself. And if Nike's gamble pays off, the Caitlin 1 won't simply be remembered as a successful sneaker launch. It could become the product that proved women's basketball had evolved from a growing sport into one of the most valuable markets in professional athletics. When you take a step back, it's clear this story is about much more than CaitlinClark or even the WNBA. What we're witnessing is part of a much larger transformation across women's sports. For decades, female athletes fought for greater visibility, bigger sponsorships, and equal opportunities. Today, those efforts are finally beginning to reshape the entire sports industry. Just look at what's changed in recent years. Television networks are paying record amounts for women's sports rights. Attendance numbers continue to climb across multiple leagues. Corporate sponsors are investing more than ever before, recognizing that women's sports aren't just a social movement, they're becoming a powerful business opportunity. Fans are no longer tuning in out of curiosity. They're watching because the competition is exciting, the stars are relatable, and the quality of play continues to reach new heights. The WNBA is a perfect example of that shift. A longer season, new expansion teams, larger media deals, and growing international interest all point toward a league preparing for sustained success rather than a short-lived surge in popularity. And while CaitlinClark has become one of the most recognizable faces of this movement, she's part of a much bigger wave that includes established superstars, rising young talent, and a new generation of fans discovering the game. What's even more exciting is what comes next. As revenue grows, players could benefit from higher salaries, improved facilities, expanded marketing opportunities, and even greater global exposure. Young girls watching today's stars aren't just dreaming about playing professionally, they're beginning to see it as a career with real financial and cultural impact. That's a dramatic shift from just a decade ago. The biggest takeaway isn't that one player received a signature shoe or that one league added 6 more games. It's that the entire landscape of women's sports is changing before our eyes. If this momentum continues, future generations may look back at this moment as the point when women's basketball, and perhaps women's sports as a whole, stopped chasing recognition and started setting the standard for what modern professional sports can become. When you connect all the dots, one thing becomes impossible to ignore. The WNBA's decision to expand to a 50-game season and Nike's launch of CaitlinClark's first signature shoe aren't just two major headlines, they both reflect the growing confidence surrounding women's basketball. One represents the league's belief that fan interest, media attention, and commercial opportunities will continue to grow. The other represents a global brand making a long-term investment in one of the sport's brightest stars. Of course, it's important to keep the bigger picture in mind. CaitlinClark didn't build the WNBA on her own, and she isn't solely responsible for the league's recent success. Countless players, coaches, executives, and fans have spent years helping elevate women's basketball to this point. But it's equally true that Clark has brought unprecedented attention to the league, introducing millions of new viewers and creating conversations that extend far beyond the basketball court. Now, the spotlight shifts to what happens next. Will the WNBA's expanded schedule attract even bigger audiences? Will the Caitlin 1 become one of the defining signature basketball shoes of this generation? And perhaps the biggest question of all, can this momentum continue long enough to permanently change the business of women's sports? Those answers will unfold over the next few years, but one thing is already clear. women's basketball is no longer fighting for relevance. It's competing for a bigger share of the sports world than ever before, and the entire industry is paying attention. What do you think? Is the WNBA entering its greatest era yet, or is there still another level the league hasn't reached? And between the 50-game season and the Caitlin one, which announcement do you think will have the biggest long-term impact? If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next deep dive into the biggest stories shaping the future of basketball.
If you made it this far, you already know this story is far from over. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this changes everything, or are people overreacting? Hit the like button if you enjoyed this breakdown. It really helps push videos like this out to more viewers. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next update, because things are moving fast and there's a lot more coming. I want to hear your take. Does this shift the balance, or will defenses find another way to respond? Share this video with someone who needs to see this, especially if they've been following this story closely. Turn on notifications so you're always the first to know when new content drops. If you've got a different perspective, drop it below. I read a lot of the comments, and the discussions here are always interesting. Let me know what you think happens next, because this could go in a lot of directions. And if you enjoy content that breaks things down in a simple, engaging way, stick around. There's plenty more on the way. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.